The rugby there here on Sports Extra. The conclusion of Wales against Argentina continues over on Sports Extra 2. But right now from Brazil, we say hello and good afternoon to you. Formula One arrives in South America for round 21 of the World Championship here at Interlagos, a circuit steeped in history where many a great of Formula One has been crowned champion. No champion will be crowned today, but the title fight rumbles on between the two McLaren drivers, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, along with the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. But with an incredibly tight and competitive grid, major contenders out of position, and the constant threat of rain, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix is about to roar into life in about 10 minutes or so, just under that, and guiding you through every single lap of it will be myself, Harry Benjamin. Up in the commentary box alongside me is the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson and reigning F1 Academy champion Abby Pulling. Afternoon, Abby. It's been a really interesting weekend so far. Of course, we had a sprint Saturday and it's all trending the way of Lando Norris right now.
I was going to say it's been interesting throughout the grid, but that top step and Lando have been absolutely dominant all weekend. So we'll see what happens in this race. I mean, there's some variables. It's been wanting to rain in Brazil, but who knows what can happen if that teeters in. It could go anyone's way.
Yeah, the air temperature at the moment 17.5 degrees, track temperature just under 31 degrees. Humidity's dropped a little from earlier on, down to 71%, but it has been heavily raining in the early hours of Sao Paulo today, and that does leave some tricky conditions.
Exactly, and we've been speaking about the weather all weekend. It's been forecast at points to be typhoons and really heavy weather, but it's been somewhat dry all weekend, so maybe we'll get a little bit of that. And as we saw in the sprint race, when it was still a little bit damp, it caused a red flag. There was some crashes, and Oscar Piastri, the championship protagonist, DNF'd, so it's just so unexpected when it does rain.
It certainly is, and as you say, in the sprint, Oscar Piastri picked up 0 points. Lando Norris took home the full 8 points, and with that, this is how the standings look. Norris extends his championship lead to 365 points. He's now 9 clear of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen is 30 adrift of Piastri. And to add a little bit more into the mix, while Norris may be on pole, Piastri is in 4th, and Max Verstappen, well, he qualified 16th and he starts from the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, for them, they're changing their floor. They prefer the floor from before Mexico, actually, so going a few iterations back, and he's not been happy all weekend, so I'm not surprised to see him. When you're starting from P16, what difference really does starting from the pit lane do? But starting from P17 last year, won the race. Obviously, lots of things went in his favour. Who knows, could he do it from the pit lane this year? Not looking likely.
It was, tricky conditions, plus the red flag last year that saw him go from 17th all the way to victory, as the drivers are limbering up on the grid and climbing into the cockpit of their cars. We're getting a look at Isaac Hadjar, the French rookie, who is just hauled 1 foot over the halo and stepped down into the cockpit of his Racing Bulls. We'll see the rookie fly from 5th place on the grid. So actually both Racing Bulls inside the top 10, neither Red Bull making it past the first section of qualifying yesterday. Andrew, what's happened to Max Verstappen and Red Bull over the course of this weekend?
Well, it looks a little bit like the floor they introduced in Mexico hasn't really worked, because he had a really strong run in the previous races, and then, if you remember, everyone was talking about him being a championship contender again. Difficult weekend in Mexico. Used the same floor at the start of this weekend, changed it for qualifying, and they've stuck with the one that they used in qualifying, but made a whole load of other setup changes to the car, because they obviously went the wrong way after the sprint. He's not been happy with the grip of the car all weekend. Let's see if these changes that they've done for the race, they finally hit on something good.
Let's see, Yuki Tsunoda, who has been struggling ever since he stepped foot into that Red Bull, he is down in 17th, as the team are still in a fight for second in the Constructors, which actually Ferrari move up to second after the sprint. They're now just 6 ahead of Mercedes, who lie third, who themselves are only 11 ahead of Red Bull in 4th. Williams have looked like they're cementing 5th place, really, and we've still got a great battle going on for 6th place with those midfield runners. Racing Bulls tied on points with Aston Martin, who have looked strong so far this week weekend, but it's the Racing Bulls car that had the advantage on the grid. Haas are in 8th with Sauber just a couple of points behind them. Alpine adrift at the bottom of the field, but Pierre Gasly scored a point in yesterday's sprint race, and they haven't scored points in a Grand Prix in the last 7. So Gasly hoping to work miracles this afternoon. But our focus, of course, will be right at the front, and particularly Abby, between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. It just seems like Norris is really in the ascension right now. Momentum is very much with him, both on the track and off it too.
I mean, it's all Lando's to lose at the moment. Not only is he the one at the top of the championship, although it's still very tight, but he's had all the momentum. He dominated Mexico. He's been dominating so far this weekend, and he's on the form of his lifetime at the moment, but it doesn't always last forever. I mean, of course, we've seen that in the past with Max being so dominant, but look where we are now. So he's still got a challenge on his hands, although Oscar is making it a little bit easier for him.
Are we seeing Piastri start to buckle under pressure here?
I think slightly. I think it's always hard to be the one being chased, although it's always a much nicer scenario to be in as you've got the upper hand. And I think with Lando's change in mindset and approach to the second half of the season is maybe caught Oscar a little bit off guard, and he just seems to keep tripping over his own feet a little bit, and he can't seem to pick himself back up. Although he's gotten better and the margins closed over this weekend, it's still not looking perfect. At this point of the year, he has to be beating Lando Norris to take the title, and at the moment he is not doing that.
No, he isn't, as we are getting a look at the tyres that the drivers will be starting on. They're expecting, if it all remains dry, to be a mixture of the soft and the medium compound of tyres. Some have actually opted for the hard tyre, Abby, but there's a disparity on the front row. Lando Norris is going to go for that medium tyre, whilst Kimi Antonelli, it's second for Mercedes, is going to go on the soft.
Yeah, that screams that Kimi wants to have a go into turn 1 and try and get the lead early on. I think it's a smart play from Mercedes. They need to get the track position, because there's no denying that the McLaren, once it gets out in front, you can't beat it. So they're trying to get the early advantage, get the McLaren in the dirty air and try and manage the tyres a bit better than them.
Andrew, having seen the tyre list, what are you expecting in terms of strategy?
Well, it makes a really interesting mix. You've got both Aston Martins and both Red Bulls on the hard tyre. That's Max Verstappen in the pit lane, remember. He's obviously going to go and try and go long. Gives you options to wait on the hard tyre. If you can get it up to temperature, that's the problem. Antonelli, he's gone for the same strategy that many people did at the start of the sprint, which is very similar conditions to this, with a damp track, but dry enough for slick. So he'll have a lot more grip than Norris off the line on the first lap. But how long will those softs last? We don't know whether it's going to be a one-stop or a two-stop. It's on the cusp. We're going to see as the race unfolds.
I was going to say, don't forget, in the sprint, actually, after the red flag, Kimi was one that swapped from the soft tyre to the medium, McLaren doing the opposite, and by the end it was a big advantage that Kimi had, although he never managed to use it and overtake in the sprint. It doesn't look like the soft lasts a whole lot, and it's going to be tough for him, really. He's got to make that ground early on. It's a lot of pressure for him.
Yeah, Pirelli saying you can make a one-stop work starting on the soft tyre. You want to go to around lap 24 to 30, then you can stick on a medium tyre to the end, possibly.
The thing is, though, Harry, the soft didn't last that long in the sprint, so I don't think that's that viable. Those Pirelli strategy predictions are normally wrong, but what we don't know is what's going to be right. I really don't know what to expect from the strategy, and of course the rain just mixes up even further.
It certainly does. Right now, it is not actively raining from what we can see from our commentary box, but Interlagos, it's a bit of a microclimate here. It can change in an instant, can't it, Abby? But it's also a track that everyone loves. You can get overtaking here. Talk us through the track and the challenges of it.
Yeah, well, it's one of the shortest on the calendar, but it's also one of the busiest. The middle sector, there's a lot going on, and opens up lots of opportunities to overtake, because you're braking on load. It's every corner flows into another, and when you make a mistake, that just invites everyone behind to try and overtake you, because it really hurts, and that's where you've got to be so pinpoint accurate.
Well, we are moments away then from lights out here at Interlagos. Every race since the summer break has been won from pole position. We'll run you through the entire grid in just a few moments. We have 3 drivers fighting for the title, but momentum has swung in one way so far. It's a tight field with rain a constant threat. 71 laps of racing ahead of us. It's time for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We'll have 18 cars on the grid, 2 from the pit lane. Esteban Ocon in the Haas, and Max Verstappen, who has changed his engine, will fly out from the pits. Last, the home hero, Gabriel Bortoleto, after crashing heavily in the sprint, didn't make it out for qualifying. Starts 18th behind Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull. Franco Colapinto will go from 16th. The top 15 begins with Carlos Sainz. Lance Stroll is 14th behind Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari in 13th. Alex Albon will go from 12th. Just missing out on the top 10 is Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. Nico Hülkenberg gets his first Grand Prix top 10 start of the year in the Sauber. Then it's Pierre Gasly from 9th behind Oliver Behrman in 8th. Liam Lawson starts the top 7 behind George Russell's Mercedes. Isaac Hadjar is 5th for Racing Bull. Then comes Oscar Piastri in 4th. Charles Leclerc is 3rd, with the front row made up of the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli and the McLaren of Lando Norris. Well, it's a fairly short lap around this Interlagos track. The Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, overcast, dark grey clouds loom in the distance above this 4.3 kilometre, just over 2.6 mile track. 15 turns, 10 that go to the left and 5 that go to the right. It's an anti-clockwise circuit. You can reach speeds of up to 330 kilometres an hour. And one thing that's quite intriguing, Abby, about the start-finish straight as well is even that is slightly pitched at elevation too, before you then head downhill through the left-hander that begins the centre S.
Yeah, there's not really one part of this circuit that is flat or even straight. The straights that going down the start-finish, there's still a few corners, and at this point they really need to get the tyre temp, the drivers. It's a really short lap, so that's going to be ever so important for them, and I expect the first few laps they're not going to actually be in the window and they're going to be skating about, which makes for an exciting start for us.
It certainly does. Tyre temperature crucial in conditions like these as they weave left and right, firing through all cylinders on their final burnouts as they approach their grid spots. Lando Norris hits his marks, and now begins the waiting game for Lando Norris for, the 17 cars behind him to make their way into their slots. At the back of the field will be Tsunoda and Bortoleto, with Max Verstappen from the pit lane, and I suppose the advantage then of a pit lane start is you miss any carnage going on between turns 1 and 2.
Exactly, you're almost hoping for an early safety car to bring you back to the pack, but it's not ideal. You want to be starting with the grid just in case you can make any early opportunities.
And duly into the pit lane comes Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon in the Haas, as Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber lines up in 18th and last on the grid. The green flag flies at the back. 71 laps of fearless racing with drivers on the edge of control on the way. It is all eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing in Sao Paulo. It's a good start from Lando Norris, who sweeps over to the left-hand side, hides the inside line, coming downhill into the centre S. Piastri going toe-to-toe with Isaac Hadjar for 5th place and just comes out on top and holds the position, but he's lost ground to the Ferrari ahead. The top 3 as they were. Norris ahead of Antonelli, then comes Charles Leclerc, but it's Piastri who is under pressure here, heading into the left-hander of turn 4, but he holds the position from Hadjar.
I mean, that was an awful start from Lewis Hamilton. He's been the biggest loser of that, and even the pit lane starters are now on his tail.
3 abreast nearly, coming into the tight middle sector between Pierre Gasly's Alpine fighting with George Russell. We've got an Aston Martin off. It's Fernando Alonso. He rejoins alongside Oliver Behrman in the Haas as they now squeeze round the left-hander of turn 9. Nico Hulkenberg in the Sauber almost pushed off the track. Indeed he was so. Has to get out of it. Now finds himself going toe-to-toe with the Williams of Alex Albon as he falls down the order. Yellow flag out as we approach the end of lap 1. Coming through the left-hander of Jung Sao, and it's disaster for the home hero. It's Bortoleto who's found the wall at turn 10. He's kept the car going, but that front left suspension looks like it is broken to me. He's found reverse. Yellow flag is out as we begin lap 2 of 71. It's Lando Norris who leads Antonelli. Charles Leclerc is third ahead of Piastri. Hadjar, the top 5.
That is absolute heartbreak for the home hero, Gabriele Bortoleto. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a virtual safety car because his front wing was on the floor. There was a lot of debris out, but he'll need to come into the pits to replace that quite swiftly.
I think he has managed to, he stopped actually on track, and safety car has come out. Yeah, Bortoleto's not getting that one back. Safety car is out. Field is neutralised, and there's damage for Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton's lost his front wing. Has he somehow come together with Bortoleto, or is it a separate incident? He's missed the pit lane, so he's going to have to drive round with the front wing wedged underneath that Formula 1 car, and Hamilton has lost his front wing, and Bortoleto is stranded at turn number 10 and is out of this race. And the family aren't particularly happy in the garage either. It's such a shame for Sauber and Bortoleto, who had such a good Mexico, stealing a point. However, he had a big crash in yesterday's sprint race and couldn't get out for qualifying, and it ends a rather unfortunate weekend for the Brazilian. We're getting another look at the race start at the moment. Oscar Piastri was really the most under pressure here from Hadjar as he got squeezed coming into the right-hander that feeds you out of the second part of the Senna S.
In T1, actually.
Yeah, chaotic start here. Lando Norris, though, leads Antonelli and Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton has got damage with a front wing broken. Gabriele Bortoleto, the Brazilian driver at his home race, is out of this one too. Safety car conditions, field neutralised. Norris with the advantage. And that's the sound of Lewis Hamilton, who got a nudge from a driver behind coming into the left-hander of turn 1, which really plunged him all the way down the field. And now we're going to hear what happened to Gabriele Bortoleto. First of all, he gets squeezed by Lance Stroll's Aston Martin going into the right hand. I think that's turn 10, isn't it? Pico de Pato.
Stroll pushed me out. Yeah, he just turned if I was not there.
Abby, let's call you Gabby. Abby, how do you read that one? Actually, just seen Lewis Hamilton. Did he make contact with the Alpine of Franco Colapinto? This is the sound of Hamilton on the start-finish straight, and it's the lightest of touches as he moves to the inside to get the momentum, but he has a speed overrun, and the front wing makes contact with the rear left tyre of Colapinto, and that is enough to completely break off Hamilton's front wing. So a lot of carnage further back in the pack. Hamilton having a pretty chaotic turn 1, and Bortoleto not able to carry on. We've got the truck out on the circuit, and they have all been advised to cut the corner because we've got a recovery vehicle on track at turn 10, and all Bortoleto can do is stand and watch with his helmet off, and that's our first retirement of the Grand Prix.
So that's 3 separate incidents that we've had there. So at the start, Hamilton was blocked by Alonso, couldn't make any ground, and then got hit by the Williams in turn 1 and got swamped by everyone, ended up last other than the pit lane starters. And then Lance Stroll, I mean, that should be a penalty coming his way. In the regulations, you have to leave a space for a car on the outside, and he definitely didn't do that. And then with Lewis Hamilton, he was in a place where he shouldn't have been because he got the contact in T1 coming out of turn 12, trying to overtake Franco Colapinto. And it was a complete misjudgment from Lewis, just driving into the rear left wheel of the Williams, and then that meant he's had to crawl to the pit lane and change his wing. But out of all that, I'm really surprised Franco hasn't had to box as well for a puncture, because it was front wing to his rear tyre.
Yeah, lucky escape for Colapinto, not so much for Lewis Hamilton, and it's an agonising wait in the pits when the mechanics get to work as they jack the car up. off its four wheels and replaced that front wing. They've got him back out into this race though, Hamilton at the back, and he's changed onto the hard tyre. Tsunoda's also come into the pits and he's changed onto the medium tyre. And was it Carlos Sainz in the Williams? It was, who made the lightest of contacts with the man that replaced him at that team. Hamilton was actually lucky not to find himself spinning out in turn one. And this is the sound of Tsunoda from 18th on the grid. He's the other that's started on the hard, came into the pits now under the safety car and has gone onto the mediums. He was right behind that clash between Hamilton and Sainz and actually was a bit of a gainer there and gained a few positions going through turn one.
Yeah, everything just parted ways for Yuki there a little bit as we're going now on board with Pierre Gasly to see how he's done on the race start, going around the outside. It's all a big gaggle of cars going around turn one into turn two, the centre S, but all fairly tidy from him. Managed to keep behind the likes of George Russell.
Yeah, so let's run you through the order then. It's Norris who leads Antonelli, Leclerc and Piastri, the top four as they started, the top five as they were. Hadjar was really hounding Piastri in the early stages but couldn't get by him. Good start from Liam Lawson and the other Racing Bulls. He's up to sixth ahead of George Russell. Then it's Oliver Behrman who was really having a great fight with Pierre Gasly and in the end won that one with a nice move into turn one. Gasly's ninth. Alonso has worked his way up inside the top 10. They are your point scorers. Then it's Albon and Sainz, Hulkenberg, Stroll and Colapinto, the top 15 runners. Verstappen from the pit lane has worked his way up to 16th, just ahead of Esteban Ocon, who also started from the pit lane, while Tsunoda pitted under the safety car. Let's see how that pans out for the Japanese driver. He's moved on to the medium tyre. Lewis Hamilton pitted with damage to his front wing, change of front wing, change of tyres. He's now on the hard compound.
Is the floor okay?
Yeah, damage confirmed with the floor.
Yeah, mate. I am lost a lot of downforce. We're just not stable.
Understood.
And that might be a long afternoon then for the honorary Brazilian Lewis Hamilton. Floor damage starting, well, he'll restart down in 19th and last. It's going to be a bit of pain for him.
Yeah, I mean, both for Gabriele and Hamilton, they both love Brazil here, but it's been disastrous for the both of them as the safety car is ending this lap.
Yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto, the man who grew up here in Sao Paulo, born and raised out of this race after being shown the wall by Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. Okay, safety car coming in at the end of this lap. It's coming towards lap 6 of 71 as Bert Mailander in the safety car races away into the pits. Lando Norris takes control of the pace and it'll be up to him as and when he puts his foot to the floor, making sure he leaves it to the last possible moment, because you can gain an advantage here on this start-finish straight. Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes is lurking and ready to run as we get past the pit lane and Norris flies. Antonelli goes with him. Leclerc, though, having to go side by side. Piastri to the inside. It's brave. It's bold. Will it pay off for Piastri? No. There's contact with Antonelli. Leclerc actually loses his front left tyre and disaster for the Ferrari. But in all of that, despite making contact, the championship, the man who sits second in the championship, Oscar Piastri, looks like he's actually gotten away with that one. And he's worked his way up into second. He knew he had to make a big move, and it worked for the Australian. But at what cost to the Mercedes of Antonelli, and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc is out of this race.
That was bold from Oscar. I mean, very impressive stuff from there. That was win it or bin it situation, and he's absolutely come out on top of that. But I don't know how they're going to look at that, because that was 3 into 1. So Kimi didn't really leave that much space on the inside. Who knows how that's going to pan out as there's more scuffling at the back with the two Williams, but I imagine this could go to safety car conditions again.
Yeah, looks like Leclerc's stopped. His front left suspension is broken. That's what he's reported on the radio. Max Verstappen, meanwhile, has worked his way up into 13th and is staring at the back of Nico Hulkenberg's Sauber. So yellow flag is still out, not yet called a safety car. Norris leads Piastri by 1.2 seconds. Antonelli holds on to third. Hadjar and Lawson, the top 5.
Kimi Antonelli made an absolute meal of that restart. I mean, it was exactly the same. It is what happened in the sprint race, a really late start, Lando leaving it to the very last minute, so you should have really expected that, as we've seen the virtual safety car come out for that incident. But I'm really surprised by Kimi there, and it ended up causing lots of a mess behind him, and it worked out. That's what Lando wanted to do. I think he wanted to create carnage behind by leaving it late, but it worked to the favour of who he didn't want it to work to the favour of.
It certainly didn't, but it really paid off for Oscar Piastri. We're going to get another look at it. So Norris got a great jump. Antonelli didn't. Suddenly swarmed by Leclerc on his right, Piastri on his left. Late dive from Piastri, who locks up, makes contact with the rear left of Antonelli, who then gets speared into the front left of Charles Leclerc. That rips off Charles Leclerc's front suspension and tyre, and that is Leclerc's race done. Meanwhile, Piastri gets away with it and moves up to second.
You're not actually allowed to overlap before the start-finish line. That is another regulation, and after seeing the rearboard camera from Lando, I don't think Oscar was left enough room. I think he won't get penalised for that, in my opinion. But you're not allowed to overlap for the start-finish, and Oscar and Charles were overlapping the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli, so there could be, I mean, if the FIA look that closely, maybe a penalty coming Oscar's way for that?
Yeah, I think on the move itself, I agree with you, Abby. I don't think Piastri's done anything wrong. He's right alongside Antonelli on the inside, and Antonelli just turns in on him. Piastri's completely on the curb. Here's his radio.
Yeah,
he's right. He was right about that. Antonelli just cuts in. But as for the start-finish line, we'll have to have another look at that one, I think, to get a completely clear view on that. Yeah, Piastri's locked up on the inside, but he's completely in control of the car, and it's only Antonelli coming in that then bounces him off the McLaren into the Ferrari on the outside.
Meanwhile, Max Verstappen also does a Piastri down the inside of the Aston Martin he's got himself up into 33rd spot. No, he's actually just lost positions now. He's come into the pits. That's why Max Verstappen had just gained some positions under virtual safety car. Verstappen's come into the pits and has come out again. We're still under the VSC.
So we think we picked up a front right puncture, Max. That was the reason for the box.
So he just hit, after a great move down the inside of two cars, he was up to top 15 at one stage. He now comes out in last, but he has made a pit stop and he has moved on to the medium tyre.
I imagine that'll be from all the debris across the track. Of course, Lewis Hamilton lost his front wing at turn 14, as well as Gabriel Bortoletto, although we had a full safety car for that, and then obviously Charles Leclerc's car as well, which, going back to that, he was such an innocent party in all of that. He left tons of room on the outside of turn 1. He left enough room for 3 cars to go through, but Kimi was nowhere near Charles at all, and yeah, squeezed Oscar massively as the VSC is now ending.
Right now, if it ends like this with Norris ahead of Piastri, the gap between them would be 16 points, but Piastri looks like he's up for the fight for this one, and they have already gone, the two McLarens. Lando Norris on lap 9 leads his teammate Oscar Piastri, who is tucked right underneath as they plunge downhill into turn 1 and out through turn 2. The Senna S as it curves round the Curva del Sol down the Retro Aposta. Piastri is close, he's within half a second of his teammate, and he gets the DRS as well. Piastri knows he's got to stop the rot. He's had a rough run of things and he's lost the title which he held since Saudi Arabia back in April. He now chases his teammate and he looks like he's out there to make some decisive moves this afternoon.
George Russell actually in the background, he made a really good start of the VSC ending and got past Liam Lawson and moved up to P5, and it was textbook really, although he didn't have the DRS going into turn 4. He defended that nicely. So we're seeing the team radio of Kimi Antonelli, the engineer, reassuring him that the car is fine, there's no damage, and for him to keep pushing. It definitely looks like he's struggling out there since the incident at turn 1, and he's scrambling a little bit.
At the end of lap 9 then, after quite an abrupt start to this Sao Paulo Grand Prix as we tick over for lap 10 of 71. Lando Norris leads. He's managed to get that gap to just over a second to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Then comes Kimi Antonelli settling in third. It's going well for the two Racing Bulls drivers. Hadjar is in 4th, Russell 5th with Liam Lawson, the second of those Racing Bulls cars, up to 6th. Then it's Behrman, Gasly, Albon and Sainz. They are your top 10. They are your point scorers.
So, I mean, very bad luck for Max Verstappen to start this race. He'd made a lot of ground up to 13th place, unlucky to pick up a puncture, but and have to do that pit stop, which put him back to the back of the field. But he's already moved up 2 places and set fastest lap on that first racing lap after this second restart.
Yeah, made a change to his setup to start from the pit lane. New engine as well for Verstappen, up to 16th ahead of Stroll and Ocon. Leclerc is out of this one. So too is Gabriel Bortoleto. It's not been a great Brazilian Grand Prix for the Ferrari drivers, with the sole remaining Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, with floor damage down in 15th. If it ends like this, well, Mercedes will get back up into second in the Constructors' Championship and put a little bit of daylight between themselves and Ferrari. But we still got a way to go yet. Norris, Piastri, Antonelli is your top 3. Hadjar is 4th, but coming under increased pressure from the Mercedes of George Russell. Then it's Lawson. Behrman is hounding him in 7th. Then it's Gasly, Albon and Sainz, the top 10, with Alonso now in 11th ahead of Hülkenberg. Tsunoda, who has already made a pit stop, up into 13th ahead of Colapinto. Then comes Hamilton, who's now got Max Verstappen just behind him, and Hamilton fighting with Colapinto, and looks like he's lost out on that one coming into turn 1. Stroll 17th, Ocon is 18th.
George Russell actually looks like a man on a mission right now. He's got past Liam Lawson. He's right on the tail of Isaac Hadjar. Of course, George is on the medium and Isaac is on the soft, so he needs to get past him as quickly as possible, because it's going to start fading away that soft tyre and getting in George's way. And actually, Antonelli's also on the soft tyre, so they're both reeling in Antonelli. And it looks like George, if he plays his cards right, by the end of the Grand Prix, could be on for a podium.
And George Russell hasn't been particularly happy this weekend, has he? Has not been at one with his car, but I think to compound that, it's the fact that his teammate Antonelli has certainly upped his game and been ahead of him. But he's shaping up a move on Hadjar, the French rookie in front of him, as they break uphill through turn 12, Jung Sao, and they now go up through the gears over 200 kilometers an hour as they head over the crest of the hill and carve their way left down the start finish straight. Hadjar with decent momentum, however it is Russell with the DRS. Will he peek out and have a look down the inside? Hadjar holds off the position, moves to the inside line and defends it, but runs wide. That'll allow Russell to get the cut back and greater traction on exit through the left-hander of the Curva de Sol. Lining it up now down the short straight, the Retro Aposta with DRS in action. The rear wing flies open for Russell, and by the time they get into the braking zone, Russell has made 4th place his own. Hadjar down to 5th.
That was executed perfectly from George. Made Isaac over push into turn 1, get a bad exit, and then it was easily done in turn 4 there. But actually, interestingly, when we saw them going around the middle sector, there's a few spots of rain on the camera, although not a lot, but it's there. It's lingering.
Update from the stewards room. We've got Piastri and Antonelli. That turn 1 incident has been noted for causing a collision. We've got 10-second time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda, causing a collision between himself and Lance Stroll at turn 8. So Tsunoda continues to get no luck. Did we see that incident?
We've not seen that incident, no, so I'm wondering if they will show it soon.
I was going to say, I don't recall that one, but for Tsunoda, just when you think maybe the strategy might go his way, he'll have 10 seconds to serve. If he does another pit stop, he'll serve it then before the team get to work. If not, it'll be added to the end of his race line. Lovely move from Oliver Behrman, fighting with the Racing Bulls as he makes his way up into 6th spot ahead of Liam Lawson, dived down the inside at turn 1. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen continues his charge and picks off a weak Lewis Hamilton, who is driving with an injured car, and the floor taking damage early on. Hamilton is going to be in store for a rough afternoon as he gets demoted down to 16th spot.
That move into turn 1 from Ollie Behrman, I think he took himself by surprise. I don't think he even realised he was going to overtake Liam in that situation. It was so late on the brakes, and Liam did fend it off. He went to the middle of the track, but not quite enough, and the hash driver of Ollie Behrman just slipped on past.
Yeah, and the Racing Bulls cars are holding up a massive train. So Hadjar in 5th, there's a massive train right back to Tsunoda in 13th, less than a second between all those cars. So as usual, we're seeing the Racing Bulls qualify well but then struggle for race pace.
Oh, Tsunoda, we're getting a look at it, and he came into turn 8 all out of control, the slowest part of the circuit, and actually lost the rear, had to dive to the inside of the Alpine of Franco Colapinto, but was just all crossed up, carried too much speed, and ended up nudging Lance Stroll's Aston Martin into a spin. And I think, unfortunately for Tsunoda, he just got that one wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Lance was the innocent party there. He just locked the rears a bit on entry, and to take avoiding action of the Alpine at the apex hit Lance.
Meanwhile, at the front, Harry, it looks like Norris has got it under control, as he has done the whole weekend, basically. He's been eking out a little gap every lap. He's now 2 seconds in front, and doesn't look like Piastri can close in on him anymore.
In this situation, if I was Oscar, I'd be telling them all, I want to do the complete opposite of whatever Lando's going to do. You need to take a risk. At this point, you need to take a risk and hope that it plays in your favour, because on raw pace alone, if they go strategy for strategy, Oscar is, to put it lightly, not winning this race. So he needs to go bold and do something different.
And if they are to follow their mantra, all's fair in love and war.
I'm going to crash out here. I'll keep trying. Car's crazy unstable.
That's Lewis Hamilton intimating that he very much would rather retire the car here, as it's feeling like it's about to crash out any second. Took floor damage after contact with Carlos Sainz's Williams. He also made contact with the Alpine of Franco Colapinto. That's what lost him his front wing and had to come in for an early stop. And I think Hamilton has come into the pits to retire his car, having picked up floor damage and struggling. It's going to be a double DNF for Ferrari. So it is turned into a nightmare Sunday for the Scuderia. Lap 15 of 71, and they're not retiring Lewis Hamilton. Actually, they're going to send him back out, so they are going to continue in this race. They're going to put him on the medium tyre and see how he fares. So Hamilton then not yet out of this one, so Ferrari still have a game to play here, but they are far away from the points as Hamilton comes out in 18th and last, right at the top of the field. Lap 15 of 71. Now 2.6 seconds clear is Norris, ahead of his teammate Piastri. Antonelli is in third spot. Then it's Russell, Hadjar the top 5, Behrman is 6th. Then it's Lawson, Gasly, Albon and Sainz the top 10, with Fernando Alonso in 11th. Nico Hülkenberg is 12th, with Max Verstappen looking to pick off another place in pure moments. Tsunoda 14th with a 10-second time penalty. Colapinto is 15th. Stroll, Ocon, Hamilton, the 18 remaining cars in this race. No Charles Leclerc, retiring after suspension failure as a result of that incident between Antonelli and Piastri, and that is under investigation for causing a collision. Fresh from the stewards, as Hamilton has a little look at the inside of Hülkenberg down into turn 1. A brave, bold, beautiful move from Oscar Piastri into turn 1. Saw him run up to second place. He's now behind his teammate Lando Norris, but is adrift of him by nearly 3 seconds. Norris looks like he's got this one in control. That move, though, resulted in Charles Leclerc picking up damage and having to retire this car. One Ferrari out, the other Ferrari in Lewis Hamilton, plumb last, but lap 16 of 71. Still a way to go here. Piastri chasing Norris. Max Verstappen continues to chase, but update from the stewards' room. 10-second time penalty for causing a collision for Oscar Piastri.
I think that's absurd. I think that is way too harsh of a penalty. If you want him to go racing, then let's just squeeze everyone on the inside and turn in. I don't agree with that at all, and I'm quite good, because now we're not going to see that fight for the lead.
That will be served. What a move from Max Verstappen. Late on the brakes, down the inside. And it's only for 12th place, but nicely done from the Dutchman on Nico Hülkenberg. Cool, calm and collected from Verstappen. He'll now chase down Fernando Alonso for 11th spot. But that is really not good news for Oscar Piastri. Now 3 seconds back from Lando Norris. He will serve that 10-second time penalty at his first pit stop. He'll come in, hit the markers, and then the team will not be able to touch that car for 10 seconds before they get to work.
Yeah, I'm quite frustrated at that, honestly, but it's their decision at the end of the day, and they've got to stick by that. So it's going to be a lot of work for Oscar now to make up, but the McLaren seem fast around here, so there's no doubting that he can make up some ground from that. But interestingly enough, it's really tough actually for Verstappen at the moment, as there is a DRS train from P7 onwards all the way down to P14 where Yuki Tsunoda is, and it's going to be really hard for him to make any progress. Although he's looking really fierce on the back of Fernando Alonso at the moment, he's using that new medium tyre as much as possible to make the progress.
So I think what's happened with the stewards is they've read the racing driving standards guidelines and they've applied them to the letter, but it's in a way that is not intuitive for racing. So just to read them out: to be entitled to be given room when overtaking on the inside, the overtaking car must have its front axle at least alongside the mirror of the other car prior to and at the apex, and be driven in a fully controlled manner, particularly from entry to apex, and not have dived in. I think they've looked at that and they've seen that although he was alongside before the apex, because he braked because he could see Antonelli coming in to turn in, and he had his wheel locked, they've judged him not to be under control. I don't think that's a fair assessment of what was actually going on in Piastri's car at the time, but there's the stewards for you.
And as it's come in the race, they will have to serve it then, as we're going to get another look at that Piastri overtake. There's room for 3, then it gets to the apex, Piastri locks up, and then it's just 3 slides into each other because Antonelli turns in. There's Piastri. Antonelli has room on his outside, but has got a Ferrari there too.
There is no denying that Oscar is locked up, and I understand why they've deemed it that he wasn't in control, but he's done that in an instinct reaction to Kimi beginning to go towards the apex. There definitely wasn't a car whip by the apex, and I think it's a harsh penalty.
We're getting pit stops, by the way. We've got those stuck really in that DRS train. Gasly's come in, so too has Hadjar. Behrman has pitted too, along with the other Racing Bulls car. Liam Lawson has actually stayed out. Let's see if this has worked for Ollie Behrman with the undercut. Ollie Behrman might well have been able to pull this one off nicely, whereas Hadjar going to peel out. It's worked for Behrman. He was stuck in that DRS train, decided to get out of it along with Carlos Sainz and come into the pits. But for Behrman it has worked out, because Hadjar, who was running up in 5th place, has responded but has come out in 15th place. Behrman 13th place. So good work from the Haas team.
Yeah, they really needed that, because the Racing Bulls were causing a lot of issues for everyone in the turbulent air, using too much of the tyre, and it's looking pretty good for the Haas team. I mean, they've got I don't know if they're going to be able to fight for a podium with the Mercedes and the pace they're showing, but there's definitely the potential for a top 6 here.
Liam Lawson comes into the pits now. Max Verstappen goes round another lap, and he's now worked his way up into 6th, having come in for that pit stop, and he's chasing his former teammate Alex Albon in the Williams. So Lawson comes into the pits there. Norris and Piastri have stayed out there. The gap between them is 4.1 seconds. Antonelli and Russell, also the top 4, all yet to pit. Then comes Alex Albon, yet to pit, whilst Max Verstappen, who has, under the virtual safety car, stuck on a set of medium tyres, having started from the pit lane, is all over the back of the tight driver. Alonso 7th, Hulkenberg 8th, Tsunoda 9th, then comes Colapinto the top 10, Stroll as 11th, Behrman, Ocon, Hadjar, Gasly the top 15, Lawson feeds out in 16th place, then comes Sainz and Hamilton, the 18 drivers that remain in the field, with no Charles Leclerc and no Bortoletto.
And Lando, from our side, we think it's more like plan B, possibly even plan D.
Okay, so plan B or plan D for Lando Norris. So plan B is maybe keep on extending this stint on the medium tyre, which is going on for 21 laps now. Plan D, we'll have to wait and see as Max Verstappen decides to overtake Alex Albon into turn 1.
I was going to say, if only we were in the pre-briefing room with them and we knew what each individual plan was, but it seems like they've been taken off guard a little bit and are changing up, and maybe expected an earlier or a kind of a mid-race safety car. I didn't expect it to come as early as it did potentially.
Do you stick on if you start on the medium, do you stick on the hard to the end when you come in and one stop it all the way? We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Andrew, what do you reckon?
We have a 10-second penalty for the safety car restart turn 1. Best opportunity is plan C, and you need to get to target lap with good pace. Oscar, your pace looks good, and we can still make this work.
no reaction from Piastri to that message. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm sure he's very annoyed about that. So I don't think people are going to want the hard tyre. If you look at what's happened on a hard tyre, Max Verstappen's got off it as quick as he could when he had that puncture. Fernando Alonso has just been passed by Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber. He started on the hard, Alonso, and he's not got a lot of pace. So I suspect that what people are going to want to do is carry on with the medium as long as they can. The medium seems to be the favoured tyre. In comes Antonelli to get off these softs. And I suspect they'll run the medium as long as they can and then switch to the softs for the second part of the race.
2.2 second stop for Kimi Antonelli, nice and quick from the Mercedes team as he plummets down the order. That puts Russell up into third. Norris still leads this Grand Prix by 4.6 seconds to Oscar Piastri. Then it's Russell, Verstappen, Albon the top 5. Hülkenberg is 6th ahead of Alonso. Tsunoda is 8th. Colapinto and Stroll the top 10. Antonelli feeds out an 11th spot ahead of Ollie Behrman. Then it's Hadjar. Ocon is 14th ahead of Gasly. Lawson is 16th ahead of Sainz. Hamilton, the last of the 18 runners that remain, as Pierre Gasly slides down the inside of Esteban Ocon for 14th place at the left-hander of turn 4.
This has really helped out Max Verstappen actually, because he's got clear air now, so he can use that medium tyre, which is a little bit fresh on everyone else. Okay, it's everyone's box now, but that's really going to help him try and make that margin, so when he does box he doesn't come out as far behind, or even maybe a safety car, bank on a safety car, and he can maintain that position.
He's got good pace for Verstappen as well. At the moment he's lapping quicker than anybody apart from Lando Norris, so they've obviously made good hay with those changes on the Red Bull that they made to take him off the grid, start from the pit lane. You can't change the car between qualifying and race unless you start from the pit lane. He's got a fresh engine as well, and it's going to be really interesting to see where he can get up to with Piastri having a penalty. Verstappen already up to 4th, and he's 19.4 seconds off the lead, but he's only 9 seconds behind George Russell in 3rd. Piastri, who is 15 seconds ahead of him, is going to have a 10-second penalty, of course, at his pit stop. Can Verstappen get on the podium from the back of the grid?
I would never count that one out. Right at the back, Esteban Ocon is losing positions left, right and centre. Lawson and Sainz have just got through on the Frenchman who started from the pit lane, now down in 17th. This is the sound of the race leader and the championship leader, Lando Norris, and if it stays like this, he will extend his championship lead. But Oscar Piastri doing all he can to make that a minimal hit for the Australian, but with that 10-second time penalty looming over him, it just seems to be falling away for the Australian. Russell was 3rd, Verstappen carving his way through the field, having started from the pit lane, pitted under the virtual safety car, stopped to the medium tyres, worked his way up into 4th spot, could be in the hunt here for a podium position. Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli picks off Franco Colapinto, and Antonelli gets himself up into 9th spot by the time we get to turn 1 as we embark on lap 24 of 71. 2 cars out of this one. Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, after damage in that incident between Piastri and Antonelli, front left suspension caved in, and that was all she wrote for the Ferrari driver. Gabriel Bortoleto on lap 1 was rather unceremoniously shown the wall by Lance Stroll, which I think Stroll has gotten away with that one, and Bortoleto, the boy from Brazil, sadly not able to continue on in his home Grand Prix. That 24 of 71, Norris leads Piastri, Russell, Verstappen and Albon. Kimi
right here has got quite a bit of traffic, so he's got to get past Tsunoda, Alonso and Hülkenberg to really get any kind of space, and that's going to be playing into Max Verstappen's favour. He's not got any traffic, he's going to be going forward and not hindered at all. So although now he's going to make the move on Yuki Tsunoda going down into turn 1, he needs to make these moves fast.
And they go side by side, but I think Tsunoda is going to make that rather easy for him as he comes into the pit, slows down, hits the pit limiter and files in for a pit stop. Tsunoda will have to serve a 10-second time penalty as well for his incident with Lance Stroll, where he rather put the Canadian all into a spin in turn 8 a few laps ago. So the team will hold off on working on that car for 10 seconds before they get to it. That will plummet the Japanese driver all the way down to 18th and last in this race. Meanwhile, Antonelli up into 8th spot now, having pitted from 3rd, is all over the back of Fernando Alonso. Having done a great move to get himself up into second place, Oscar Piastri, who trails his teammate Lando Norris both in this race and in the championship, has been given a 10-second time penalty for that move on Kimi Antonelli, which resulted in damage to the Ferrari driver, Charles Leclerc. So at his first pit stop, which he's yet to take, Piastri will have to wait 10 whole seconds. It's falling away for the Australian. 5.5 seconds is the gap now between Piastri and Lando Norris. Meanwhile, Antonelli does indeed pick off Fernando Alonso, yes, up into 7th, and Behrman has picked off the other Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Good run so far for Ollie Behrman. The undercut working for him as he was trailing the 2 Racing Bulls cars of Hadjar and Lawson, who have now pitted and are behind the Haas driver. So Behrman has looked quick, looked very quick in qualifying. Actually a bit disappointing, really, underwhelmed to see him only qualify 8th, but is making amends for that now.
Yeah, I mean, he's really showing his pace here, and I imagine he was really disappointed after qualifying, as he was at the top in Q1 and 2 and didn't quite put it together in Q3. So, I mean, he's shown his racecraft in Mexico. He made a lot of moves, lots of solid moves, even notably overtaking Max Verstappen, as he was excited after, saying it's not often you get to go side by side with a 4-time world champion. But he's doing a brilliant job, the rookie, and especially a lot of the drivers haven't been here before. Kimi Antonelli and Ollie Behrman, they've not been here before, so for them to be doing what they're doing is really strong showing.
Just want to say as well, Max Verstappen is now the fastest driver on the track, or very nearly, along with Lando Norris, and he's closing in on George Russell quite quickly in that Mercedes. He's now 6.5 seconds behind the Mercedes, closing in about half a second a lap.
Incredible pace from Max Verstappen, who looked all at sea in qualifying yesterday. Failed to make it out of Q1 on pure pace. They've made changes to the setup, they've changed the engine for a new one, and he's carving his way through the field, aided by a cheap pit stop courtesy of a virtual safety car, and he's up into 4th behind the top 3 who have all yet to pit. That is Norris, Piastri and Russell. Yet to pit 2 are Albon in 5th, along with Hulkenberg in 6th. So too for Fernando Alonso, who is persisting with the hard tyre, although we think most aren't really big fans of that hard tyre. Behrman has pitted, he's up to 9th. Stroll, the other Aston Martin, also on the hard tyre, has yet to pit. So still strategy here to unfold on lap 28 of 71. We're hearing the sounds of Pierre Gasly chasing Hadjar and going wheel to wheel with, might actually be Liam Lawson, but going wheel to wheel with one of the Racing Bulls. And meanwhile, the other Racing Bulls of Hadjar getting Lance Stroll's Aston Martin into turn 4. Although I think Stroll might have got back ahead of him, because he's 11th, then Hadjar, then Gasly, then Lawson in that fight there, which could become points once those who have yet to stop in the top 10 have pitted.
There's a little bit of moving in the braking there from the Red Bull going into turn 1. It wasn't terrible, but it was a little bit unpredictable, so I imagine nothing will happen, but I can also imagine Pierre wouldn't have been happy with that. But what's also been noted is the 10-second time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda hasn't been served correctly. They failed to serve it correctly, so the FIA have noted that, and that would just be that they the team in the pit crew, they would have touched the car before that 10 seconds was up.
Hamilton's day goes from bad to worse. 5-second time penalty for causing a collision for Lewis Hamilton, which is rather painful for him. So I wonder if that's why they've kept him out there until that result, because otherwise that will hang over him for the next race.
The FIA are having a field day, aren't they? There's more penalties than I can count in this race so far.
Yeah, and for Hamilton, well, he's down in 17th. He's only ahead of Yuki Tsunoda at the moment. He's got floor damage, has Lewis Hamilton, so he's limping round the track.
But that also makes you question, when Lewis is on the radio to his engineer saying, I want to retire the car, why have they left him out? I mean, now they have to, because he needs to serve that time penalty, but what was the thought process there for them?
Well, he didn't say I want to retire the car, did he? He said I'll carry on, but the implication was I don't see the point of carrying on. But I can only assume that they're just thinking, well, you never know what's going to happen in this race. We might pick up a point or two for the constructors. They're in that very close battle with Red Bull and Ferrari for second place in the championship. So why not leave him out? Because they've got no other car in the race. They might as well, even though the chances of him scoring a point are very, very small, obviously.
at the moment down in 16th. He's just made up a position because Fernando Alonso has finally given up the ghost on his hard tyres and exchanged them for a set of medium tyres. So good stint from Fernando Alonso there. Could go to the end.
He will, I think, on the mediums. Yeah, I don't think he's obviously very happy about those hards, but I would imagine they will look back on that and think it was the wrong strategy. But let's see what he can do, get to the end of those mediums.
Well, it's very telling when Max Verstappen gets off them as soon as he could. The first opportunity, he was like, nope, get me off these.
Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli lines up a move for 5th place on the Williams of Alex Albon and gets the job done by the time they get into turn 1. Still no signs of movements when it comes to the pits for Lando Norris, for Oscar Piastri, who lead this Grand Prix. Norris with nearly 7-second advantage over his teammate Piastri. Russell a further 7.8 seconds back. Max Verstappen's charge up through the fields just halted slightly the last couple of laps, but he's still quick out there. But last lap around was a 1:15.1. Russell's was a 1:15.2. Norris was the quickest, the 1:14.6. And as I say, no signs of movement. We have movement. It's Lando Norris, who after 30 laps on the medium tyre is going to come in for a set of softs as he slows down to 80 kilometres an hour, slings it into the left-hand side, halts on his grid marks. The team get to work. Is it a quick stop? It is. They send him on his way. McLaren put together a 2.2-second stop. Piastri takes the lead of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Now, there's 40 laps to go, Harry, and he's just put on a set of soft tyres, and they were struggling to get 26 laps out of them in the sprint. Now, I think he might be doing a 2-stop here from now.
Do you push?
You have to if you're doing a 2-stop.
Well, exactly. Do you push now on the soft tyre and absolutely rinse them and try and build up that gap that you need to come in for a pit stop under a green flag? So just under 21 seconds for a green flag pit stop. If we do get any kind of safety car, a virtual safety car, that gets halved to about 12 seconds.
Yeah, if you're Oscar in this scenario, I think you extend your run and you bag on getting a safety car because Lando, yeah, he's definitely going for a 2-stop. There's no way he'll take that tyre to the end. So the only way Oscar can get the upper hand here is extending this run.
So Piastri takes over as the leader. George Russell in second, but Max Verstappen now up into third. Norris feeds out in 4th position ahead of Kimi Antonelli. So we then expect Lando Norris to be doing a 2-stop race. Let's see what he does on this soft compound tyre. The red wall tyre, the fastest rubber that Pirelli provide. As we see Pierre Gasly and hear him struggling with his Alpine coming through the downhill left-hander of Magulio, chasing the Racing Bulls of Isaac Hadjar. They're right at the bottom end of the points at the moment, 9th and 10th for Hadjar, and Gasly with Lawson chasing behind too. Onto the start-finish straight, and both of them are getting DRS from Hadjar. So Lawson very much being brought into this fight here. Alpine and Gasly seem to have come alive this weekend. While they are quite adrift at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship, certainly for morale purposes, another point that Gasly might be able to get will prove big metal for that Alpine team.
Listening to Pierre off track as well, he doesn't understand why the Alpines all of a sudden come alive around the Interlagos circuit. So they've been speaking quite a lot in the media that they want to understand it so that they can improve going forward throughout the season, because there is no hiding that all of a sudden that the Alpine is kind of competitive.
Norris all over the back of Max Verstappen as they head up the hill at Jungsao, over the crest, carving to the left-hand side, past the main grandstands that are filled with passionate Brazilian fans. Verstappen, whose tyres are much older, and the medium tyres, doesn't put up too much of a fight on Lando Norris, who sweeps by him into turn 1 as they then dive downhill through the Senna S, and before you know it, he's onto the Retta Aposta straight towards turn 4. Piastri continues to lead. He's not come into the pits. He extend for as long as he can and hope for some kind of safety car intervention. His teammate has pitted. His teammate, who's looked the quicker of the two drivers throughout the weekend. Piastri also has a 10-second time penalty hanging over him that he will have to serve at his first pit stop, so that time will be factored in to his strategy too, as Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits once more. and we'll see if they feed him back out again. But Hamilton has a 5-second time penalty to serve as well, so they'll have to wait 5 seconds before the Ferrari team get to work on that car.
Yeah, Max not putting up much of a fight at all into turn 1, as we're seeing more pictures of that. But there's no point for him at this point to try and fend off the McLaren, because his fight isn't with them. It's with the Mercedes, and he's trying to get on the last step of that podium.
You're not going to believe this. There's another notice from the FIA stewards, and it's another penalty. It's a 10-second time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda, failing to serve his first time penalty correctly. So that is, I'd say, he's rather on the team for that one, as Hülkenberg and Albon get so close into turn 1. Hülkenberg fending off the Thai driver behind.
Oscar, how's the grip overall? Any evidence that hard may be better than P1? Didn't look too bad on Aston Martin.
It's difficult to know, but the medium feels good for now.
I think that would be a really big mistake, them going on to the hard compound. It didn't look like it did too much for anyone at the start of the race. Everyone got off it at the first chance they got. If he's happy with the medium, I think they should stay to it.
Well, they are thinking of all the options, giving him all the options. Are McLaren. No favouritism inside that team. They are in the interest of fairness. They want one of their drivers to be champion, but they will not sacrifice their morals to get one of them to that champion's podium at the end of the year. Lovely move a few moments ago from Pierre Gasly, diving down the inside of Liam Lawson, and he's currently up in 10th spot is Gasly, as George Russell finally comes in for his first pit stop at the end of lap 34, and Max Verstappen follows suit into the pits for those two.
It was quite a quick pit stop there for both of them, quite tidy, so not too much time will be lost. But it'll be interesting to see where Verstappen comes out, how much traffic he has to navigate.
Yeah, it certainly will, and they will plummet down the order. That puts Hülkenberg actually up into 4th. So Hülkenberg is still going on out there. He's yet to pit, so he's making his medium tyres work and last. So too is Alex Albon. They are currently up inside the top 7, with Russell feeding out in 7th spot, and Hadjar 8th, Gasly 9th, Lawson now up inside that top 10. Verstappen comes out in 12th.
A lot of cars here to navigate. Verstappen's come out just behind the Williams of I think it's Carlos Sainz, so a lot of work for him to do. It's not going to be easy. He's dropped down to P11.
And a few moves in the midfield. Behrman continues to pick off places. He's up into the top 5 now, as we have, who was that coming into the pit? Somebody, I think it was Alex Albon in the Williams, who was finally called quits on his medium tyres and comes into the pit. So those who have really extended this medium tyre stint have now started to come in, with the exception of Nico Hülkenberg and Oscar Piastri, who continues to lead. His gap to Lando Norris in second, who is now on the soft tyre, is 10.2 seconds. A pit stop under green flag conditions of 20.8 seconds if all goes well. Add a 10-second time penalty into the fray for Oscar Piastri, and you find yourself in the pits for far longer than you would like. But that is the card he has been dealt here in Sao Paulo, and they will have to find a way to make it work. But crucially, making a bold move, overtaking Leclerc and Antonelli into turn 1, making contact with Antonelli, who ended up making heavy contact with Charles Leclerc, who was to the outside of the Italian. That ended Charles Leclerc's race, and Piastri, it was bold and it was needed, and he worked his way up into second. But was it worth it for the cost? We'll have to wait and see, as Hülkenberg finally calls time in his Sauber. Hülkenberg's into the pits. That puts Behrman up into 4th. So Behrman, who finished 4th last time out in Mexico, running up in the top 4 yet again. The British rookie continues to showcase why Ferrari picked him as a driver to support in their young academy, saw him up through the ranks, placed him at Haas, However, he's about to lose 4th place to the faster George Russell, who was on the soft tyre, pitted later as well. Behrman down to 5th, but crucially, that undercut for Haas has really worked wonders to get him ahead of Isaac Hadjar and out of that DRS train that really developed in the first phase of this Grand Prix in that midfield pack.
Yeah, George has been the man of the race so far. I think he's really been clear and precise in what he wants, and his strategy with Mercedes. They've read this race really well so far. I mean, let's see where it goes, but opting for a similar strategy to what the McLaren is running as we're on board with Max Verstappen trying to navigate the traffic. It's the Alpine ahead. He's in a superior car, so he should be able to make his way past Pierre Gasly, but as we're going on the exit of turn 12, I think it's going to be light work for the Red Bull driver. Yeah,
arcs his way round the left-hander, picks a line, he goes to the inside. They both got DRS, but for Gasly, by the time they get to the braking zone, his old teammate Max Verstappen is through on him downhill through turn 1, and Isaac Hadjar comes in to the pits. So Hadjar comes in from running inside the top 6. Good pit stop from Racing Bulls, 2.4 seconds. So Hadjar then, who had swapped on to the medium tyre on lap 19, on lap 38, he will come out he will come out on another set of the medium tyres as Lewis Hamilton is told to box to retire. So the day does end for Ferrari with retirement for Lewis Hamilton. Piastri, box is the call from the McLaren pit wall. He's already into the pit lane. McLaren are the first team to greet you. He pulls in to his grid slot. They will not be allowed to touch that car for 10 seconds. Even the slightest of touches and your penalty is not served. And like Tsunoda, you'll be given another one. They deem 10 seconds to be up. They lift the car off the jacks. It's a quick stop from McLaren when it comes to it, and they get him off and away. Piastri then back out into the pit lane. Norris retakes the lead of this race. Antonelli pops up into second. Then comes George Russell into third, with Ollie Behrman up into 4th. Verstappen moves up to 5th. Pit stop for Oscar Piastri, who had to serve a 10-second time penalty, was running in the lead, now falls all the way down the field. It's very much advantage Lando Norris right now, but the strategy proving really intriguing here. Let's see how far Norris can go. Let's see how quickly Piastri can catch up. And Max Verstappen is up inside the top 5 from the pit lane. As Lewis Hamilton retires his car. So Piastri has followed suit with his teammate and come out on the soft tyre.
It's a lot of work now for Oscar. He's on the soft tyre, so that'll mean that he can put some pressure on their medium runners and really try and gain that margin back. But it's going to be hard in that turbulent air to manage the tyre. As we saw, the soft doesn't last very long, and especially when you're pushing so hard to try and attack and you're going off line, overtaking, it means that life lasts even less. So an upwards battle on his hands.
He comes out in 8th spot. So lap 40 of 71. Everybody now has made at least one pit stop. Norris leads on the soft tyre by 7.5 seconds to Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes. George Russell sits 3rd. Then it's Behrman 4th. Verstappen is up to 5th. Lawson is in 6th with Piastri 7th. Ocon's now up to 8th. Gasly comes into the pits from 9th. Alonso rounds out the top 10.
I tell you what, if Norris is doing a 2-stop, then he's going to have to pass Antonelli to win this race. If he's doing a 2-stop.
Big if. Yeah. It's still a long way to go. Lap 40 of 71. Can the soft tyre go that far? Max Verstappen, we are without a doubt, we are in a race here with Russell and Piastri. That is what Max Verstappen has just been told on the radio. Is that the fight for the final spot on the podium? Is the fight for the win on between Norris and Antonelli, and the final spot on the podium between Verstappen, Russell and Piastri?
I don't know if McLaren are running a risk here, dropping him back behind Antonelli on the 2-stop. I mean, it's we saw in the sprint race, it is hard to overtake, but although they will have quite a big tyre advantage with that, it depends how brave Kimi is feeling. But yeah, with the battle for the podium, it's looking tight. And I mean, Red Bull have done an incredible job to turn this around for Verstappen, but you only think, what if they put that flaw on earlier on in the weekend and they went back, because they it's really shot themselves in the foot there.
So remember we said that Norris had to do 41 laps on those tyres to the end of the race. Pirelli's projection for the performance life of the soft tyre is 34. So I think he might try and get to the end on them, just stretch them out a bit.
I think he'll want to, and he's got the breathing room to manage his pace as well. We know how good the McLaren has been. One of its strengths this year has been managing their tyres and keeping them cool and keeping them within the right temperature range. So Piastri has come in and also gone onto the softs. He's now chasing Max Verstappen for 5th place, and we'll be hoping to move along with him. That battle going on. Ollie Behrman is kind of the outlier up in there, but he's in 4th at the moment. Could it be back-to-back 4th place finishes? It will be a tough ask for the British rookie, but I'm sure he's up for the fight. Lap 42 of 71. Lando Norris leads Kimi Antonelli. George Russell is 3rd ahead of Behrman. Then it's Verstappen, the top 5. Piastri, Lawson and Ocon is currently making it. Double points finish for the Haas team. Hulkenberg is in 9th ahead of Fernando Alonso. Then it's Albon in 11th. Colapinto, Stroll, Hadjar, Tsunoda the top 15. Then it's Gasly and Sainz, the 17 remaining drivers. Both Ferraris out of this race, along with the Sauber of Gabi Bortoletto.
So Red Bull say they're in a fight with Russell and Piastri, so that's presumably for 3rd on the podium. If that's true, Verstappen would have to close on Russell. He's at the moment 6 seconds behind, with Ollie Behrman's Haas in between them, and he's having a couple of tenths quicker than Russell, but that's not really enough, you wouldn't have thought, to make it a real challenge for that position. Then you've got Piastri behind Verstappen by 5 seconds. Again, he's on soft tyres, but he's not lapping that much quicker than Verstappen, a couple of tenths. Maybe they'll concertina up together by the end of the race. Abby, what do you think?
I think it could get close at the end, as you say. I mean, there's a lot of variables, and maybe you'll see another safety car which will throw everything out the window, but it's going to be tough for them to navigate, I think, as we hear from Oscar.
What's the plan here?
Oscar, use your pace. We're trying to catch and undercut Behrman and Russell. Verstappen will help you with that.
So Piastri then is looking for the undercut as Behrman does come into the pits for another stop. So they're hoping for the undercut. So they expect those ahead to pit twice.
Well, it means they're going to be pitting twice if they're doing an undercut. Yeah.
But Piastri was able to go longer, wasn't he, in that first stint?
On the medium.
Yeah. But could that just about, with less laps to run than Lando Norris on the soft tyre, will that give him a slight advantage in the closing stages?
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're going to use that soft tyre and really use all the pace in it and make the tyre last a less amount of time, but use more of the performance of it to then change the tyre maybe earlier than what Norris is planning to do on his set of soft tyres.
So Behrman does pit then, and he comes out in about 11th spot, just ahead of Stroll, Colapinto and Hadjar going side to side, or side by side with Franco Colapinto into the left-hander of turn 4. Colapinto holds the position, so crucial work for Behrman to get in front of this fight then. So it's Norris, 7.6 seconds the gap between him and Antonelli. Russell is 3rd, Verstappen 4th, Piastri 5th. So we may well expect then the McLarens to pit again. Lando Norris on the soft, Antonelli on the medium tyre. So is the advantage slowly swinging to Kimi Antonelli in that Mercedes. This is going to be a fascinating end to this Sao Paulo Grand Prix, as further back in the pack Carlos Sainz is picking off one of the Red Bull of Yuki Tsunoda to get himself up into 16th spot, and it was slightly slow for Ollie Behrman, wasn't it, on the front left?
Yeah, considering he wants to be in the fight with the Mercedes and try and close up, and even Oscar and Verstappen, they're trying to be within that fight. Having a slow stop is not what you want. What happened in Mexico, they had their best stop of the year, so under a lot of pressure, the teams are, not just the driver, the teams as well, really need to perform to try and make any margin as possible.
McLaren and Piastri can breathe a slight sigh of relief as that 10-second time penalty was correctly served. So unlike Yuki Tsunoda, he will not have to serve another 10-second time penalty for incorrectly serving the first 10-second time penalty.
I can imagine the FIA watching them like a hawk. They're ready with their clipboard to send out another penalty their way. But yeah, that's good for the team for doing that.
So if Piastri's two-stopping, you would assume Norris must be two-stopping because he stopped earlier than Piastri. But then what's Antonelli doing? Is he one-stopping or two-stopping? So that raises the question that I raised before again. is Antonelli going to be leading this race with Norris closing him down in the closing stages?
Quite possibly, if Antonelli can really manage the tyre. And right now, that gap between Norris and Antonelli has stayed steady at about 7.5 seconds over the course of the last few laps. Is Antonelli just in utmost management mode here? Because they now know that Lando Norris is planning to come in for another pit stop. So are Mercedes now in full tyre save mode, but still trying to carry a bit more pace.
But again, is Norris actually going to stop? You know, and I don't really understand if Piastri has to make another stop and undercut, which the implication is if you say you're only going to undercut someone, that means stopping before them and then using your pace on the fresh tyres. So that means he will stop again unless Tom Stallard was doing some massive disinformation campaign. Then Norris is going to have to do, unless they're using their tyres differently, you know, maybe Norris is managing, he's going to eat them out to the end. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty about strategy in this race still.
I think without a doubt Norris has to pit. I mean, them softs are already 14 laps old.
You're a bit more optimistic about this strategy than I am, because it doesn't look very pretty from where I'm sat.
This looks best to us, Oscar, because of expected deg on the soft.
Yeah, so that's Tom Stallard, Oscar Piastri's engineers, saying that they expect the soft tyre to degrade a lot, and therefore they'll have to stop again, in which case Norris's car, you wouldn't have thought, would treat the tyres significantly differently than Piastri, so he too will have to stop again. So what's Antonelli going to be doing?
That's what we will be watching out for. Right now, no movements from the pit lane on lap 46 of 71. It's the Sao Paulo Grand Prix coming from Interlagos in Brazil. Lando Norris leads the Grand Prix ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Oscar Piastri was hit with a 10-second time penalty, having collided with Antonelli, who then went into Charles Leclerc after the safety car restart. That saw Charles Leclerc's race done. Max Verstappen is currently fourth, having started from the pit lane and pitted twice. Unfortunately for the home hero, Gabriel Bortoleto, he crashed out on lap 1, bringing out an early safety car. Lewis Hamilton makes it a double DNF for Ferrari. He retired after picking up floor damage, also served a penalty for causing a collision too in the early stages of this race. So 17 cars remain in the Grand Prix, and we're still questioning what's going to happen by the time we get to the checkered flag when it comes to the strategy. Will Norris have to pit again? Will Antonelli have to pit again? Russell too. Can Verstappen go all the way to the end now? Piastri is now 3.5 seconds behind him in fifth.
I think we're seeing a difference in strategies between the McLaren and Mercedes. I wouldn't be surprised to see Antonelli go on a one stop, and almost I'm for sure definite that Norris has to pit again with how old his soft tyre already is, although he's well known for being good at managing his tyres. So it's really going to come to the very end, I think, this race with the difference that them two are running.
Good race so far from the two Haas drivers. If we just look at the midfield at the moment, they've both clawed their way up into the top 10. Here's Hajar.
Oh my God.
Isaac, head down, we have much better tyres.
Don't shout at me, okay? Thank you.
That's Hajar in the Racing Bulls. Action from the pit lane. Antonelli does pit. He hits his markers. He's lifted up off the ground, and within just 2.2 seconds, that car is back on the ground, and he's got rid of those medium tyres, and he has put another set of medium tyres on. Where is this going to feed Kimi Antonelli out? Russell goes through, Verstappen goes through, Piastri and goes through as well. So too does Liam Lawson. Yes, he does. So Lawson goes through and up into fifth. Antonelli will feed out in sixth and can go to the end now.
So that says they're all two stopping, basically.
They have to.
Apart from Verstappen, who will be on a 3-stop because he had the early stop after the safety car with the puncture, which kind of messed his race up a little bit. Imagine what Verstappen could have been doing if he hadn't lost that time. Even if it was behind the VSC, it lost him like 6 or 7 positions, because he got up to 13th place by that point, and he had to go back to the back of the field as a consequence of that puncture. So he could have had a really good race if that hadn't happened. But it looks like they're all going to 2-stop, and then the question is, well, where do all that call come out in relation to each other? We'll do the maths on that and come back to you, Harry.
Thanks, Andrew. Our mathematician, as George Russell is told to box as well. So Mercedes pitting Antonelli straight away, followed by his teammate George Russell. That puts Verstappen up into second. Russell's getting rid of the soft tyre. On goes the medium tyre, and it's another quick stop from Mercedes. They're really good with their pit stops so far this Grand Prix, and he is out in just over 2.2 seconds, but he will feed out behind his teammate. Antonelli goes through and up into fifth, and that will put Russell up into sixth. Meanwhile, Behrman is trying to overtake Nico Hülkenberg. They're going wheel to wheel downhill through turn one. They give each other enough room. He forces Hülkenberg deep. Can Behrman get the undercut and on the throttle sooner out of the left-hander? He's got the aid of DRS. It gives you a boost of 20 kilometres an hour over the car ahead of you. Goes round the outside of Hülkenberg into the left-hander of turn four and gets the move done. Lovely work from Behrman, up into seventh, ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, in now down into eighth.
Nico was not giving that up easily. He was really fighting at the apex of turn one, giving Behrman as little room as possible, trying to get the exit. But when you've got when you're not in the DRS and the car behind does, going down to T4, it makes it quite difficult. As we're seeing a replay again, it almost looks similar to what happened with Oscar Piastri and Kimi Antonelli, but the car on the outside, which was Hülkenberg, gave the room. So that's, I feel, what we should have saw at the restart, but we didn't. As going into the braking zone, it was made pretty easy for Ollie Behrman.
So at the front, Harry, we've got Norris expecting to stop again on the soft tyres. Verstappen's in second place. Piastri is expecting to stop again on the soft tyres, okay? Then Antonelli's dropped to fifth and Russell sixth, having just made their second stops to go to the end on the mediums. My question is, what is Max Verstappen going to do? His tyres are 15 laps old and there are 21 laps left. On the medium, he should be able to make that stint. So Verstappen, I think, is going to stay out to the end on the mediums. He's 14.9 seconds behind Norris at the moment. Norris should be able to get past him. I don't think Norris's win is under any threat. He's just pitting now, Norris. But where is Verstappen going to be in relation to Piastri, Antonelli and Russell by the end?
That is the question, as Lando Norris comes in to the pits from the lead on the soft tyre. Need a quick stop here from McLaren, and it is indeed quick, 2.2 seconds, and he's on the medium tyre to the end now for Lando Norris. Verstappen goes through and takes the lead of this Grand Prix. Piastri up into second on the soft tyre, yet to pit, but we expect him to pit too for one final time on lap 51 of 71. Could Max Verstappen here go all the way to the end on the medium tyre? He'll come under heavy pressure with much worn tyres. Or could they pit again and arm themselves with a faster soft tyre to do a bit of damage limitation and fight for maybe the final step on the podium in the closing stages of this Grand Prix? I think those will be the two situations that Red Bull will be eyeing up right now.
I mean, if you were talking throughout the whole weekend, though, you wouldn't expect the Red Bull to have been able to have come from the pit lane to be in the chance of a podium. I think the team have done a really brilliant job in managing this race and bringing Max back into contention, of course. Max is also doing a brilliant job managing everything as we hear from him now.
Something I didn't think I'd say, Max, at the end of the pit lane earlier. You are now race leader.
Congrats.
Not bad is the response from Max Verstappen. He is the race leader, but he's on old medium tyres, as Oscar Piastri is told to come into the pits from second place. So looks like he will get rid of those soft tyres and follow suit like his teammate and go on to the medium. Another quick stop is needed here for the man who sits second in the championship. McLaren oblige. It's another 2.2 second stop. It's great work from the McLaren team. Consistency is what he needs right now, Piastri, and speed to the end of this Grand Prix. He will feed out in about seventh spot. Will he get ahead of Ollie Behrman, who's coming out of turn two now? He won't. Behrman will go through and up into sixth, but Piastri should be able to pick him off once his tyres are up to temperature. Piastri feeds back out into this race, seventh place.
I mean, now it is a straight fight for the win here, and I think Verstappen isn't going to make it easy for Norris as he's going to compass. Of course, he's on a much newer medium tyre, the McLaren, but Verstappen's not going to make it easy for him. He's going to really, really fight hard, try and force him to make mistakes and keep him behind. It could be that we see going towards the end of the race, they're neck and neck, as the gap is 7.5 seconds at the moment.
Lovely battle for 10th place happening right now, headed up by Hadjar, with Gasly, Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz all in tow behind him and making their way through the right-hander of turn number 8 as they then turn number 10, as they head down through the left-hander of 11 into Zhongzhou and back uphill towards the start-finish straight. So they're all fighting and squabbling over that final point at the moment, held by Hadjar. They'll all get DRS behind the Frenchman, but will that actually be of any benefit, or will it all be a bit of a DRS train? Stroll is actually losing a bit of ground to Gasly ahead of him and coming under pressure from Carlos Sainz, who has a little think about it into turn 1 but decides against it.
No, it's a bit of a DRS train forming here, like you said, and it's going to be so frustrating for the drivers. They want to be able to use the tyre and be able to manage it and look after it and try and make sure that they're running to their run plan, but it's always frustrating when you're in that turbulent air. You can't drive it exactly how you want to, and when you're pushing mid-corner, you can't attack the minimum as much as you're losing that downforce, and when you've not got the downforce on the car, the tyre's working harder, it's not happy, and it slides on the surface more, overheats it. So for these drivers now, it's quite a frustrating stint of the race.
Lap 54 of 71, Verstappen leads. Will he pit again, or will he stay out? Norris has pitted again on much faster medium tyres in second, Antonelli third, Russell fourth, Lawson fifth, Piastri now up into sixth spot, overtakes Behrman with the DRS down towards turn 1. Behrman gets shoved down to 7th, then it's Hulkenberg, Albon, Hadjar holds that final points paying position in 10th, then comes Gasly, Stroll and Sainz all still fighting for the same piece of tarmac. Ocon behind in 14th, then Alonso the top 15 with Colapinto in 16th and Yuki Tsunoda last of the runners in 17th. 2 retirements in the form of both Ferrari drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc, and the Sauber of Gabriel Bortoleto brings that total to 3 as Carlos Sainz tries to take the wider line going into turn 4, gets squeezed right to the edge of the track by Lance Stroll, and as they're squabbling, Sainz will be desperate to move past him because he's losing track of 10th and 11th where Hadjar and Gasly currently sit. Max Verstappen will pit again. This is the sound of Verstappen slowing down to 80 kph as he comes into the pits and will exchange his medium tyres. But for what? He'll put on a shiny set of new softs. It's 2.5 seconds at a standstill for Verstappen as they change the tyres, and he will get sent back on his way and have that quick bit of rubber all the way to the end of this Grand Prix.
I'm surprised to not see them try and extend that medium to the end of the race. It took me by surprise a little bit, that stop. I mean, they put the soft on and Max was happy on the soft tyre and can attack forward for that podium, but I'm surprised by that.
Abby, I am too, because the medium tyre went quite a long way on the first stint. You know, people were doing 30 odd laps, which is not much more than he was being expected to do. So I was mystified as you are.
But even so early, pardon me, it was only 20 laps old, that tyre, so he could have extended it a bit more so he could push harder.
Lap 55 of 71, Lando Norris leads. Kimi Antonelli's in second with George Russell and Mercedes in third. But it's Oscar Piastri who is trying to pick off places and do damage limitation, having also just come into the pits. He's just made a lovely move and got himself up into fifth. He'll now try and chase down Max Verstappen in fourth. All 3 championship protagonists racing it out here, but Norris with the advantage. Right, towards the end then of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix, it's lap 56 of 71. Norris leads and looks set to extend his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Antonelli sits second for now, Russell behind in third. Then comes Max Verstappen. Now he's put on the soft tyre. Can he chase them down and fight for a podium in this Grand Prix? Piastri too needs to make moves here and get himself in podium contention to limit the damage done by that 10-second time penalty for that collision with Kimi Antonelli. Lawson is sixth, having a great run for Racing Bulls. Only stopped once though as Liam Lawson. Will he have to come in again? Here is Antonelli.
Okay, Kimi's situation has now changed, so we are now defending this position. 16 laps remaining. We just need the best stint to the end. Best stint
to the end. So there's no chance for a win for Kimi Antonelli today. That's come from his engineer Pete Bonington. It's all about defending now.
I think even Mercedes didn't expect Red Bull to do that, because they said, oh, we're now defending this position. I think they thought they'd be attacking for the position, and by the end having to try and overtake Max Verstappen, but actually it ended up being the opposite. And I'm really surprised to not see Verstappen do more laps on that tyre, even extend the run even four laps, just so that they can use more of the soft on the last 10 laps of the race. And it seems so bizarre.
Behrman has just picked off Liam Lawson going down into turn 1 as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race on that soft tyre. Last lap around for Verstappen was a 1:12.447, much quicker than Oscar Piastri, who was chasing him behind, and the two Mercedes told to defend. They would like a double podium here. That will really cement their second in the constructors.
It's been a fairly vulnerable tyre this match, so yeah, do your best.
Nothing to lose.
A vulnerable tyre, Max Verstappen is told the soft one is. Will it lose grip very quickly, and Oscar Piastri will start to close? But Verstappen sounding very relaxed and not a lot to lose for the Dutchman.
Yeah, I mean, he was a second lap faster the last lap, but that was the first lap on the tyre, as we hear from Russell.
Now we're now on brake, we look hot again.
Hey, Phil, they're right on our limit here, George.
You've got the data, mate. You tell me when they're on the limit. I don't want to be bringing it up.
George Russell standing a little agitated in the cockpit of his Mercedes, but wants clear, concise information from his engineer.
He was talking about the brakes, wasn't he? The brakes being right on the limit. Is that what he said?
I couldn't quite make out what he said. Something to do with the brakes.
If it was the brakes, no wonder he was a bit cross, because the last thing you want as a racing driver is a brake failure at 200 miles an hour into turn 1.
Currently in third is George Russell. Last lap round was a 1:13.5, a second slower than Max Verstappen's tyre, down chasing him in fourth. Piastri still in fifth, ahead of Behrman now, looking for another points scoring position for the British rookie, who's been on an excellent run so far. Indeed, he has scored points in the last 3 Grand Prix, looking for a 4th consecutive top 10 finish.
So Harry, last lap round, Max Verstappen lapped a second faster than George Russell, who's worried about his brakes, and he's only 3.6 seconds behind him, and George Russell's only 2.4 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli. Their medium tyres are quite old, whereas Max Verstappen's softs are not old, they're more or less brand new. So can Verstappen catch and pass both Mercedes and get up to the second place? It would be extraordinary if he did.
So that's what I was getting at before the radio cut me off. But yeah, Verstappen is lapping a lot quicker than the cars ahead at the moment. But with the laps left, he has to maintain this pace on that soft tyre and hope that the medium keeps going away from the Mercedes. So it's going to be a lot, as GP said on the radio. He's got to do his best at this point to try and get both of them. I think George is going to have to fend off. If it's easy, he's going to have to fend off for to cover Antonelli's back, basically. He doesn't want to lose both the places to him.
No, but Antonelli told full defensive mode. So this is all about tyres here. Will Max Verstappen's soft tyres last him? It's all about strategy. Has Verstappen taken too much life from his softs too quickly, or is he managing it spot on? If he has taken too much out, Piastri comes into the equation.
P2 is on here, Max, assuming you can control the deg.
And there it is, assuming you can control the degradation. Second place is on here. Russell has been told his brakes are on the limit. Mercedes could yet be vulnerable to Max Verstappen. From pit lane to the podium in a bone-dry race would be something for the Dutchman, who ruled himself out of the World Championship after qualifying in 16th, but could well keep himself in it, ahead of the man who sits second in the Drivers' Championship, Oscar Piastri, for now.
I mean, at the moment, Max's lap times are pretty consistent around a 12.8, 12.7, and the cars ahead are 13.7, 13.6. So I think he would definitely be on the back of George Russell. I think Antonelli is a big question mark.
I tell you what, last year he went from 17th to the win in a wet race. Today, it looks like he might go from the pit lane to second in a dry race, having also had a puncture.
Kimi not expecting wear concern on this tyre. You have 12 laps remaining, so best stint to the end, mate.
Yeah, I'm fighting. What do you think, mate?
Copy. If Verstappen pulls this up and off, he won't win the race, but it's going to be one of his greatest drives.
What is it about Brazil and Max Verstappen?
What is it about Max Verstappen, I think, is the question.
And I think this race is actually more impressive than last year as well, because last year he had a lot going in his favour. He had the red flag, and that meant his competitors, and Lando got done over by it a little bit, as well as George Russell. He was in the mix for being at the top. So this has been a straight race, and as you say, he's had things go against him this race rather than in his favour. So, I mean, there's been a penalty here and there, and contact and so on and so forth. But as Benny says, it's one of his best races to date, I would say.
Are there any glimmers of hope for Oscar Piastri to find himself up onto the podium? He's looking set at the moment to go 5 races in a row not on the podium.
And if sorry, going back to Verstappen, if he does manage to get P2, this is great damage limitation for the championship. This extends his life. Yesterday, after the sprint race, he was saying his chances, or after qualifying, he was saying that his chances of the world championship is over. But I think this kind of brings him back into the picture again.
It's still a massive long. If let's say he gets second, he'll fall to be something like 45-ish points behind Norris. I think my maths aren't exactly right, but it's around about that. That's a big gap with 3 races and 1 sprint to go. But now we're watching Max Verstappen, 10 laps to go. He's right on George Russell's tail, and Piastri, I don't think, has the pace. Well, I don't know what Piastri's going to do, but he's closing in on the Mercedes as well. But here we go, Harry. Verstappen's looming in on the back of George Russell's Mercedes.
Down the short straight towards the left-hander of turn 4 with the aid of DRS. He closes to half a second, but now we get into that tight middle sector through the right-hander, the Ferragura, which curves you through 6 and 7. Then it's a short downhill braking zone into the slowest part of the track, the right-hander of turn number 8. Then you're heading through a left-hand U-bend. Pinarino, turn number 9, slightly uphill. Pico de Pato is next, the right-hander. He closes in under braking as you then rise back uphill before you dive down through the constant left-hander that drives you into turn 12 of Jung Sao as you now head back up on yourself. There is a uphill gradient of 10% that they rise over before it flings them back onto the start-finish straight. The rear wing opens for Max Verstappen. The DRS is activated. Russell moves to the inside to defend. Where does Verstappen go? He's forced to the outside. He brakes later. He sweeps round. They get close in the middle of the apex. Russell tries to keep a wing in it, but ultimately succumbs to the Dutchman, and Verstappen is up into the podium places. But he's not over yet with this fight. He knows Russell now gets the aid of DRS. He swerves to the left, back to the right to fend off Russell, and he does so, cementing 3rd place for the Dutchman. Russell down to 4th.
George wasn't really able to fight back for that into T4. Normally you see when there's a move in turn 1, they get the DRS down to turn 4, and you can fight for that position back, but he had a really big squirm on the throttle coming out of turn 2 into turn 3, and that was a big moment of oversteer, and he couldn't attack again.
Round the outside, round the inside.
Round the outside, round the inside, job done for Max Verstappen.
I love how GP's hyping him up as he goes.
Let's get him in the comms box and stuff like that. That's good stuff from GP. And it is a remarkable drive yet again from Max Verstappen. Russell also, we think, managing some brake issues too. So is that leaving him even more vulnerable? Verstappen's about 9.8 seconds back from second place man Kimi Antonelli, but closing in fast. Then,
no, that's the gap to the leader.
That's the gap to the leader. Apologies. He's only a couple of seconds to Kimi Antonelli, and closing that gap fast. Last lap around a 1:13.6 for Antonelli. Max Verstappen 0.2 quicker that time around. Russell now down to 4th with Oscar Piastri chasing him. and desperate to try and improve his prospects.
And as well, that lap he was overtaking George, don't forget, so he was quicker than Antonelli whilst overtaking, which that naturally loses you lap time. So I think he's up for P2 here.
And that is what Mercedes were wary of, telling Kimi Antonelli, we are in defensive mode now to the end of this Grand Prix. Norris is out and away and in the lead by 7.5 seconds. He's had a magnificent weekend so far. Pole in the sprint, win in the sprint, pole in the Grand Prix, and looks on course to take victory here in Sao Paulo.
This is really hard for Kimi now. He would have hoped that George would have been able to keep him behind for an extra lap or two and give him a little bit of breathing room, but as Max made light work of it and got around the outside of George, it's made it easier, and it's released him to go attack Antonelli now. I imagine with them brake issues that he is feeling, it would have made it a bit easier, but we're actually also seeing Oscar Piastri's on good form at the moment, making that medium tyre work really nicely, and better than George Russell, as he's struggling now with the older life of it, and I think actually he might be able to go back up to P4 if he plays his cards right.
Yeah, at the moment 1.8 seconds is the gap between George Russell and Oscar Piastri, but it is closing. Just behind them, nice fight for the midfield drivers. Behrman holding on to a great 6th place. Lawson slowly coming under pressure from Nico Hulkenberg. Sauber, then Hadjar is in 9th. Gasly looks set to try and score the final point in 10th. And that'll be the first point for Alpine in a Grand Prix since before the summer break. Sainz is 11th, Ocon 12th, Albon 13th, Alonso and Colapinto the top 15. Then it's Stroll and Tsunoda. The 17 drivers that remain, retirements for Hamilton, Leclerc and Gabriel Bortoleto as we embark on lap 66 of 71. Norris leads, but the fight for second is on. 1.5 seconds splits Antonelli in defensive mode against Max Verstappen with 6 laps to go, and the other Mercedes in defensive mode to Oscar Piastri.
The soft tyre though is dropping off now for Max. He's lost a couple of attempts to what he was doing previously, although not a whole lot. He still took over half a second out of Kimi Antonelli that lap. It's going to be hard for him to overtake if this tyre keeps dropping away from him, because the more you work it and try and close that margin, as I said earlier, then you get close, you're in the dirty air, and you can't really make much of it, and the advantage almost all of a sudden is gone.
Battle for 7th. Nico Hulkenberg trying to find a way through on Liam Lawson. Hulkenberg on the soft tyres, so kind of emulating Max Verstappen's strategy, and it's working for him as they get very close to each other, do Lawson and Hulkenberg, coming through the left-hander of turn 4. Hulkenberg gets up and under the inside of that Racing Bulls, but the Racing Bulls has the better straight line advantage by the time they get to the braking zone of the right-hander of turn 6. Hulkenberg will have to ease off there for now, but Hulkenberg currently on course to score some good points for the Sauber team. Back up front, Norris continues to lead, the gap coming down slightly as Antonelli is told, he's being told he's just going to be left to it. No action on the radio between Pete Bonington, his race engineer, and Antonelli. He needs to get his head down because he's got a looming Max Verstappen with George Russell getting Oscar Piastri ever larger in his mirrors.
But it is fading again, that lap. Sorry to give the updates every single lap on the lap times, but only 3 tenths quicker that lap, the margin for Max Verstappen. So that tyre's now got 11 laps on it, that soft tyre, whereas Kimi Antonelli is on a lap with a medium tyre with only 19 laps on it. So I think it's going to play to his favour a little bit, Antonelli, with the tyre life here. He's going to be able to maybe keep the Red Bull driver behind a bit easier than his teammate Russell did.
Lap 67 of 71 over a really intriguing Sao Paulo Grand Prix, all about tyres and strategy and try not to crash into others, which unfortunately Charles Leclerc found out the hard way. The innocent victim with Piastri and Antonelli colliding into turn 1, and after the safety car restart, and that gave Piastri a 10-second time penalty to boot. Could have been second place for Oscar Piastri today. it's looking like it might not even be a podium.
I think Antonelli's toast, Abby. Verstappen's now half a second behind him, and I think that it's going to be the next lap probably, if not that, the one after. But he's coming down to turn 4 now, really right behind the Mercedes. What's going to happen, Harry? Take us through the rest of the lap. Can he pass him into turn 1 this time round?
Well, nothing will happen in the middle section of the lap, will it? He can't really overtake, and I don't think he's that close enough to try and dive it down the inside for Max Verstappen. Antonelli holding his nerve for now, but this is the fight for second place in the closing stages of this Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Verstappen through the left-hander of turn 9. He'll be thinking about the run-up from Jung Sao now. The right-hander of 10 beckons. And then you want to get good exit out of turn 12, but they approach now a left-hander. Get the drive uphill and get the aid of DRS, which gives you about 20 kph speed advantage over the car in front. Here we go then, up and over the hill. The DRS line will come as you get to the top of it. The rear wing flies open. It's not near enough. We'll have to set this up in the run down to turn 4.
So you say Kimi's toast, Andrew, but I think in that middle sector, if he keeps it open, he manages to bridge that gap going into that DRS zone into turn 1. It's going to be hard for Verstappen to attack. You've got to be really close coming out of sector 2.
I agree.
I think Piastri is also going to try and make a move on Russell as well. He's within DRS heading into turn 4. It doesn't work for Max Verstappen. Antonelli is putting that car in all the right places and finding the speed in all the right sectors.
Yeah, he's got to be smart, as I say, in that middle sector. He's got to make the margin to then give himself some breathing room into turn 1. And with that soft tyre on its 14th lap now, Max really has to push hard. I think the gap has to be around half a second, even less, going into the DRS zone for Max to be able to have the opportunity going into turn 1.
Lap 69 of 71 here. The race is on for second and the race is on for 4th. Crucial positions that involve 2 out of our 3 championship protagonists. The man who leads the race and the championship charge is nearly 10 seconds up the road and looks set to take his 7th win of the season. Antonelli is in charge of fending off Max Verstappen for second place. George Russell is in charge of fending off Oscar Piastri for 4th place. The Mercedes drivers have run a good show so far. Can they be rewarded with at least one car on the podium? The first battle will come down towards turn 4. Here we go once again. Closes up behind him. Tries to force Antonelli into some sort of mistake, but he's not having it. Is Kimi Antonelli, the young Italian rookie. Max Verstappen will have to bide his time on this one, but he's running out of corners and laps to do so.
Both Verstappen and Oscar really suffering the same fate of struggling to really get close enough to attack into them DRS zones. As we say, there's not really any opportunity in the middle sector, but the rookie of Kimi with the 4-time world champion in his mirrors is managing this to perfection. I mean, he's been smart with this, and as Bono said, he's leaving him to it, and this is really mature driving actually from Kimi, and I want to see him actually hold on to this one.
Yeah, Kimi has really upped his game, it has to be said, in this second half of the season, having had a really rough patch early doors, distracted by off-track issues and getting embroiled in fights that weren't for him on track, but right now is doing a sterling job as we start the final lap. Takes a much wider line into turn 1. Verstappen cuts to the apex, shortens the distance, but it might well have worked a treat for Kimi Antonelli as they feed out of turn 3. Verstappen will get the DRS once again. Piastri will get the DRS on George Russell as well. No, it's not going to work for Max Verstappen. Will it work for Oscar Piastri? I don't think it will either. That left-hander of turn 4 just comes a little too quickly.
I think that's it done now, because Max doesn't have any more opportunities to come past, and coming out of the exit of turn 12 onto that straight into the DRS zone, he was squirming everywhere. That soft tyre was not being nice to him, and it was deal done there from that poor exit. Although in this middle sector, Kimi Antonelli's made a few mistakes and he's closed up, but it's not going to be enough.
They are running out of corners. This is the final lap. Lando Norris is just a few metres away from victory Piastri here in Sao Paulo. It has been superb for Lando Norris, who wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix and extends his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship with just 3 races and 1 sprint to go. Kimi Antonelli gets his second podium of the season and holds off Max Verstappen from pit lane to podium. Remarkable work for the 4-time champion. Russell finishes 4th and heads off Oscar Piastri, who cannot find a way past. Piastri settles for 5th. Oliver Behrman makes it another consecutive top 10 point score for the Haas rookie, with Liam Lawson in 7th. But there is a huge battle all the way to the line between 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th. Put Fernando Alonso in there too. It's going to be won by Liam Lawson, who takes 7th ahead of his teammate Isaac Hadjar. But that was a big midfield fight and crucial points for Racing Bulls. For Sauber with Hulkenberg in 9th. Gasly gets a point for Alpine. Albon, Ocon, Sainz, Alonso, Colapinto the top 15. Stroll, Tsunoda, the 17 drivers. Both Ferraris retired, along with Gabriel Bortoleto.
That final battle for the points, although we didn't see too much of it at the end there, was incredibly close, and Alex Albon missing out by the final point to Pierre Gasly by only 2 tenths.
Amazing job, mate. Amazing job. Whole weekend on it.
Yeah, well done. Nice race, well executed. Good job all weekend. Not quite a big enough gap for my liking though, so definitely some things to look at. Let's keep it going. Thanks, guys.
10.3 seconds. Not a big enough gap for Lando Norris to second place man Kimi Antonelli. To be fair, he's just come off the back of finishing 30 seconds ahead in Mexico.
Yeah, boy! P2, mate.
Oh my goodness, that was stressful.
Oh my goodness, indeed.
That's a really strong drive from Kimi Antonelli. Smiles from Toto Wolff back in the Mercedes garage for his man that he's championed for the last few years and brought in to the paddock and a Formula One car. Pit lane to podium.
No, it's don't be. That's a really, really good race for us. And we at least try, you know.
We at least try. That's true, you can't fault them for that, can you, Abby?
No, they're always the last ones to give it Red Bull are. But going back to Lando's radio message, how much more does he want there? 10-second gap, he wouldn't have been able to even see Kimi in his mirrors, so I don't know why he's upset about that. But amazing job from all 3. All had very different races actually, I think, Norris, Antonelli and Verstappen, but brilliant job from all 3 of them there.
Well, Lando Norris parks up in the P1 position in Parc Fermé, slowly climbs out of his McLaren cockpit, puts his steering wheel back into its column and climbs over the halo and stands tall at the top and celebrates with a fist in the air. Kimi Antonelli, you'd be forgiven for thinking he might have just won the race. He's ecstatic to his Mercedes engineers and mechanics. But then Lando Norris heads over for a warm embrace and celebrations too. Verstappen parks up as well. Piastri in 5th goes to be weighed. That could have been 2nd today for the Australian.
Yeah, it could have been, but I mean, I think he was done a bit unjustly there with that penalty. I mean, who knows what could have happened, but I think with Kimi Antonelli, that's the Kimi Antonelli we were promised at the start of the season, going into the year, the young protege of Toto Wolff. He really took a step up in that race and was so smart and decisive with everything he did, and to fend off Max Verstappen, I think he's driver of the day, I think, as well as, I guess you can't really argue, Max Verstappen starting from the pit lane. He has actually been driver of the day, but for me, Kimi Antonelli, I'm really impressed.
Yeah, there was some really strong drives up and down the field, but for Lando Norris, who has really had the clean sweep all weekend long, a man on the rise as we get into the final days of this Formula One World Championship. He now leads the Drivers' Championship by 24 points from Oscar Piastri, who sits 25 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Over in the Constructors' Championship, which has already been won by McLaren, but it's getting oh so tight for everybody else. Mercedes go up to second. They're 32 points ahead of Team Max Verstappen. Red Bull now up into third, ahead of Ferrari by just 4 points. No points picked up for Ferrari in this Grand Prix. In the midfield fight over sixth place, Racing Bulls move up into that coveted sixth spot. They're now 10 points ahead of Aston Martin, who are only 2 points ahead of Haas, who are only 8 points ahead of Sauber. So that's still a fierce fight for those lower down the field. Celebrations from the crowd then, unfortunately not for their man Gabriel Bortoleto, who retired after a crash on lap 1. Not working for the Brazilian driver. George Russell comes home in 4th, fended off Piastri for 5th despite brake issues, and actually it's probably a bit of damage to invitation for Russell as well, because he hasn't really been happy all weekend either, and has been behind Antonelli for the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, but for them too, it's the constructors, and that was a really solid result for them. They're the only team to in that P2 battle to have scored with both their drivers. Obviously Ferrari having an absolute nightmare, and I mean Max Verstappen on his own really carrying Red Bull on his back. I mean it's exactly the opposite of what Ferrari would have wanted, and Mercedes are really taking a hold in that in the constructors.
We'll hear from our top 3 shortly, but Max Verstappen getting ready then to be spoken to. Only the 8th time a driver has finished on the podium from a pit lane start, and the first time since Hungary 2014, when it was Lewis Hamilton who went from the pit lane to the podium. Remarkable work from Max Verstappen. Let's hear from our top 3. They're speaking with Jolyon Palmer.
Welcome down to Parc Fermé. I think I've got 3 very happy drivers after an outstanding Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Lando, let's start with you. You look a little bit tired coming out of the car, but you didn't have to work too hard in that one, did you?
I did. I was pushing. An amazing race. Nice to win here in Brazil. It's an amazing track, amazing fans. So this one was for Gilles, one of my mentors growing up a couple of years ago. So this one was for him. I'm sure he'd be very proud about it all. So I was thinking of that while driving, but a perfect weekend. So
absolutely an amazing weekend for you generally. I mean, things just seem to be clicking right now. Mexico, a big 30-second win. It wasn't quite 30 seconds today, but it always felt like you had it under control. How have you managed to find this rhythm at this stage of the season?
Just ignore everyone that talks crap about you. Just focus on yourself. And the team McLaren are doing an amazing job, giving me a great car. We're pushing hard every single weekend, and I'm pushing hard away from the track. So rewarding. It doesn't come easy, that's for sure. And to be honest, I don't think we're the quickest out there on track today, but glad to take home the win.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic job. Stay there because we're going to come back to you. But I want to bring in both of you two, if I can. Kimi, Max, what a finale at the end there. An amazing drive from both of you. Best ever result, Kimi. Max, 3rd place from the pit lane. But talk us through the finish, first of all, because it looked like it was almost going to be a drag to the line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where this guy came from, to be honest. I didn't see it coming, but I was, to be fair, I was lucky to come away with the restart, with the contact. Need to check with the car. It felt a bit weird afterwards, but still a good race. And the last lap were very stressful with with Max coming with fresher tire, but luckily with free air we were able to maintain a decent pace and to finish on P2.
And how do you stay cool? Because I'm sure of everyone in the mirrors seeing this guy behind is a difficult one to know when he's come from the pit lane to be in 3rd, hunting you down for 2nd. You did a great job there, but how do you stay cool?
Yeah, I mean, I found my rhythm. Obviously, when it was closing in, I kept, I raised the pace. I started to push a bit more, and I found my rhythm. And obviously, with this car with dirty air, it's a bit difficult to follow. So I tried to use that into my advantage, and it paid off.
Well, a fantastic job and a best ever weekend and a best ever race. Well done, Kimi. Max, I bet when you woke up this morning, you weren't thinking you're going to be on the podium. You said you didn't mind if it was rain or dry today, and it's true. What an outstanding job. How did you make it happen?
Yeah, I think the race was quite full on, a lot of action. I had to overtake some cars, of course, coming from the pit lane, and I think our pace was quite strong over all the stints. Of course, sometimes a bit difficult to know fully with traffic and stuff, but yeah, I mean, to be on the podium from the pit lane, I didn't expect that at all, even with a puncture as well in the beginning of the race. That's why we had to box again. So yeah, incredible result for us. Very happy with that, and just very proud of everyone within the team as well. I mean, yesterday was very tough for us, but we never give up. We always try to improve and try to find more lap time, and luckily we found that again today.
Yeah, you made the extra pit stop as well. It meant you had to go really attacking. How much balance did you have to judge whether to take the risk? Because you had to overtake so many cars, but of course you can't afford to crash into anyone either.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to pass as fast as possible as well, because you don't want to lose too much time, but then some cars were also in DRS trains, so it was not always very straightforward. But I mean, with all that, to finish only like 10 seconds from the lead, I think for us is incredible.
Yeah, outstanding job. Go and enjoy the celebrations. Lando, coming back to you, I'm sure you don't want to hear it, but I've got to talk championship. There is no Oscar alongside you. The gap is now 24 points. There are 3 rounds to go. You're on great form. Do you start to think about it? Where's the mindset with 3 to go?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a great win, but to be honest, seeing how quick Max was today, it's pretty disappointed we weren't quicker. So that's where my mind's at the minute, is probably going to see the team, congratulate them, and see where we weren't quick enough. But that's me, and we'll see what we can do. Obviously, not a long way to go, but I can change so quickly, like we've seen today already. So just focus on myself, keep my head down, ignore everyone, and keep pushing.
Yeah, okay, well done. Go and celebrate first, Lando.
Thank you so much.
And we've got the Las Vegas Grand Prix coming up in a couple of weeks. Things getting close. You better tune in.
We will, Palmer. Don't you worry. We will be tuned in. Jolie and Palmer there with your top 3 from the Sao Paulo Grand Prix with a 24-point advantage at the top of the championship. Now Lando Norris wins ahead of Kimi Antonelli, and from pit lane to podium it's Max Verstappen ahead of Russell and Oscar Piastri, losing ground and finishing inside the top 5. Right, we are gonna get out of here and we are gonna analyse everything we've just seen, and that'll be on your Checkered Flag podcast on Sounds and wherever you get your pods in a few hours time, depending on how quickly producer Paddy can edit that all together. But we're gonna go off and do that. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you, Abby, for your company. We shall see you in a couple of weeks time for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. 3 rounds to go. The championship fight is still on, but it's swinging one way. This is an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.